Each year, the Commemorative Air Force Air Power History Tour provides powerful, hands-on history lessons to audiences across the United States by bringing the sights and stories of World War II aviation to the public. Philip Pardon is the tour leader.
Well, the Air Power History Tour is put on by the Commerative Air Force, which is a educational nonprofit organization whose mission is to honor American military aviation through flight, exhibition, and remembrance of the men and women who built these and flew these aircraft.
Planes on display included a Stearman, a T-34, and a C-45, but the main attraction was the B-29 Super Fortress named Fifi, the only flying B-29 in the world.
We found Fifi in the China Lake Desert in California in 1971 and got permission to bring it out, restore it, fly it out, and worked some 9 weeks restoring it to flying condition, flew it out to our headquarters and worked on it another 3 years, started touring with it in 1974 and have been touring with it ever since.
It takes 6 people to fly the B-29, 2 pilots, an engineer, and 3 scanners who would sit right here keeping an eye on the engine. And it takes a pilot with a lot of experience and training to fly the B-29. Tom Travis was a pilot with American Airlines for 36 years and then a corporate pilot. He's been involved with the B-29 since 1984 and has been flying Fifi since 2006.
It's an honor, and yet it's a challenge. You feel a sense of responsibility. I think this airplane's 70 years old, and I don't want to be the one to mess it up.
Although Fifi never flew in a war, she was used for training. The B-29 airplane carried 20,000 pounds of bombs. In comparison, the B-17 carried 6,000 pounds. Travis says it flew higher, further, and faster.
It's all cable control. There's no boosted controls, extremely heavy on the controls. The glass, as you can see, looking at the nose of the airplane, it appears that you'd have wonderful visibility, when in fact you don't. You're looking down a set of window frames and you have to bob and weave to see where you're going. You have to get used to lining the airplane up correctly on the runway. You would think that you would line the runway up with the nose of the airplane, but that's not true. You line up off the side a little bit, and that's very difficult to get used to. We work with the engineer. The engineer starts the engines, does a run up, sets the power. On the runway, we line the airplane up and get the power stabilized, release the brakes, and then I'll steer with the throttles because the nose gear is castrating, it doesn't steer. And then once we get about 65 knots, we get good authority over the rudders, and I'll say engineer's throttles, max power. At that point, we're just about ready to lift off. In flight, we call for power settings. Typically, rather than set the power ourselves, on approach, we call for power settings. So it's a team effort all the way through.
After the tour in Daytona Beach, Fifi flew back to her base in Fort Worth, Texas, where she'll undergo maintenance for about 5 weeks. Then she'll start the summer Air Power History Tour in the Midwest and Northeast states. Parson says Fifi is a very expensive aircraft, and the Commemorative Air Force relies on donations to keep her flying and touring.
What we really hope to accomplish with the tour is multifaceted. We really want to honor our veterans and have them come out and visit the aircraft or their families of remaining families of veterans who are no longer here. We also want young people and children to come out, and so we can talk to them about the war and our freedom and how we got our freedom and how big a role aviation played in maintaining that freedom.
For Volusia Here and Now, I'm Joanne Magley.